Hey, what is up guys? So a bunch of new cards just came out on Devpro. It's kind of a patch note update for you guys, and we're going to be talking about some of the newer cards that are coming out into the game because they just got released over on Devpro. But anyways, some of these cards are vanillas. They're basically just there to come out into the TCG. So C-Cam, for all you collectors, it's coming out in the TCG. The Gruesome Goo, not that these really matter for the game, but the Man-Eating Black Shark, I know some of you guys are like, what the heck, man? But this card actually does need to be in the game for the TCG because an instant fusion target that is water is... I don't know if you need it for the fish, but I know that you need this card specifically for a reason, and now we finally have it in the TCG. It comes out in Astral Pack 6, which is kind of sad, but you know what? We finally got it, so that's cool for some of the players that needed that water fish level 5 instant fusion target. Next up, we have Dragoons of Draconia. I think it's an okay card. It's a Pendulum vanilla that has the effect where once it's in the Pendulum zone, if a Pendulum destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you get to add another vanilla that is 4 or higher, which is okay. I don't know if it'll be really super meta in the game, but there is a vanilla Pendulum deck that I will definitely be showing you guys in the future, so keep on the lookout for that. But next up we have Performapal Pendulum Wizard. I don't really care too much about the Performapals. This one has a decent effect though from its monster effect. It only has 1500 attack, but once it's special summon, you can target up to 2 cards you control and destroy them. What's cool with this is you can actually destroy your unpendulums, and of course that doesn't really matter because you can go for them over and over. And then if you do, you can add an equal number of Performapal monsters with different aims from your deck to your hand. So I thought that was kind of cool. You can't add the same copy of itself, but you can only use this effect once per turn. Kind of a cool card for Performapals. I think that Whip Snake is actually pretty good, but other than that though, at the moment I don't know of any like meta or potentially meta cards that Performapals have to offer for us. Next up we have some more support for the DeeDees. I felt like this archetype kind of fell off the earth because like Vanity's Emptiness completely wrecks the deck, and Necros and other decks just kind of over-favored, I'd say, the meta rather than the DeeDee deck, which is basically a Pendulum deck, but you do have to complete your scale, and it's not as free as the Cleese, which basically just search out stuff, but nonetheless, it's an okay effect as well. If you special summon, his Pendulum effect is if you special summon a DeeDee monster, you can target one DeeDee monster in your graveyard, you special summon it, and then also your opponent takes half the damage for the rest of the turn, and then you take 1000 damage. I'm going to go over like their effects really briefly because there's a bunch of cards that came out in here, but I'll probably do more in depth about specific archetype updates in the future. But when it's normal or special summon, you can target one DeeDee monster in your graveyard and you special summon it. So basically, either way, you're getting a free monster, and then you can only use that effect once per turn. And once per turn, you should be one other DeeDee monster you control to target one monster opponent controls, and you banish it. Banishing cards obviously is much better than just destroying cards in the game. Next up, we have some more support for the Fluffles or the Frightfuls. Although I feel like this one it's still not like good enough for me to play the deck. It requires, of course, a Fluffle monster and Edge Imp, and then the more fusion monsters you use, the you can destroy a equal number of cards on the field up to the number of fusion materials. I still think they're very lackluster, and then all Frightful monsters gain 3 in attack for each Fluffle and Frightful monster you control. I mean, if you're using more cards to get out this guy, then you're gonna have, you know, less other Fluffles. I believe it counts itself, so it's basically a 21 attacker that can potentially pop everything, but at the end of the day, it's still a 21 beater. You know, it doesn't have any other insane effects. But I mean, if you happen to exhaust your whole hand, you might be able to exhaust your opponent's entire board. Next up, we have Super Heavyweight Oni Shutendo G. It's not like the best card. I mean, we'll basically go over the best cards at the very end. But anyways, it requires a machine type tuner and one or more non-tuner Super Heavyweight Samurais. So, and it also is always counted as a Super Heavyweight Samurai card, but it can attack while it's in defense position and applies the defense, so 2500 attack basically. And then when it's Synchro Summon, while you have no Spell and Trap cards in your graveyard, you can destroy all Spell and Trap cards your opponent controls. Not too bad of an effect, but I feel like most of the stuff in the game, basically once your monster comes out, you know, Deprison and Mirror Force and things like, well, Sakuretsu Armor's not really been too meta, but things that activate after your opponent, you know, attacks aren't really too relevant in the game. In the game right now, I think everything needs to be getting rid of the monster or preventing it from coming out in the game. But nonetheless, a decent effect, especially maybe if you're playing against a Pendulum-based deck, you can disrupt their scale. That's kind of cool. Next up, there's Raid Raptors, which kind of reminds me of King of the Feral Imps, but for like Winged Beast. Well, it requires a dark Winged Beast, so I'm thinking like, oh man, are we really getting more support for Blackwings? And the answer is yes. So it gains 500 attack and defense for each other Winged Beast monster you control. And then once per turn, you can attach one to add level 4 Winged Beast. It has to be level 4. If it was 4 or lower, it would be pretty awesome. But yeah, unfortunately, it has to be a level 4 one. But maybe there's some other archetype that I don't know of that can definitely make use of it. Next up, we have Jet Warrior. Basically, if it's I like this card a lot, actually. Let me read the full effect. So, it requires Jet Synchron and one or more non-tuner monsters. But if this card is Synchro Summon, you can target one card your opponent controls and you can bounce back to the hand. If this card is in your graveyard, you contribute one level 2 or lower monster to special summon it from your graveyard in defense position, but banish it when it leaves the field. You can only use each effect of them once per turn. I was thinking this is pretty cool because you can go ahead and summon Level Eater, and then go ahead and tribute Level Eater, and then bring Level Eater right back to the Level Eater a level off of Jet Warrior. So I thought that was kind of cool. But it looks like they're kind of supporting some synchros again, which is kind of cool. I like synchro based decks, but the support is kind of just like out of control. Like the power creep for Yu-Gi-Oh is real now. But anyways, there's High Speed, Roid, Magical Sword, Dharma. It basically just comes back. If you control no cards, you can special summon it, but it's not even that real strong. And it adds other effects. You can banish something to. I think it's banished like something. Go over real quick. You can banish a machine type monster, and that's a once per turn. Otherwise, of course, you'd be able to probably pull some crazy FTKs in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh with just crazier combos in the game. But OCG is a lot crazier, anyways. Next up, we have some pendulums for the Satellar Knights, and they all support the Sephra. I don't know if this is a new archetype or if it's the ritual one, but there's a Pendulum Satellar Knight, there's a Pendulum Shadal, and there's a Pendulum Yingzi. Most of them are pretty lackluster. The Yingzi one allows you to make something become a tuner. The Shadal one lets it so the monster effect is basically the effect that you want, is that because the pendulum effect just makes it so you can't pendulum summon monsters except for Shadals, and the other one makes it so you can't pendulum except for Yangzings or Sephras. But this one makes it so you can target one Sephra when it is. If it's Pendulum Summoned, or if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target a Sephra card in your Pendulum Zone except for the same copy of itself, and you get to special summon it. I think it's not that great, to be honest, unless some other support's coming out for it that I don't know of. And the Satellar Knight one lets you target one Satellar Knight or Sephra card in your monster or Pendulum Zone, and once that card your opponent controls, destroy it. So it tries to support it a little bit, but I think it's too lackluster to support Pendulums in Satellar Knights, or Pendulums in the Shadals or the Yings at the moment. Again, of course, if they make something crazy in the future, then we can take a look at that. Then there's also another one for Necros. The monster effect is if a Necro or Sephra card in your monster or Pendulum Zone is destroyed by battle or by card effect, except for by its own effect, while this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can special summon this card. I don't think it's that great. It's 2,000. It doesn't really have an insane effect. But, again, they all have the same pendulum effect that you can't pendulum except for, like, Necros or the Sephras. I wonder if Sephras are going to be, like, a splashable archetype, because it seems like they're trying to do that. Next up, there's some support for Dark Magician Girl. Well, Dark Magician, in general. It's just if you control a Dark Magician Girl, destroy all face-up monster opponent controls. I mean, it's not good. I mean, Dark Magician Girl's not even that really great. Well, this card's kind of cool. I like the artwork on this card, and it's probably going to be, like, a fan favorite. It's probably going to be secret rare for the TCG. But anyways, if you control a monsters whose original names are Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girls, you get to destroy all cards your opponent controls. But, I mean, getting out a Dark Magician and a Dark Magician Girl, not too common at the moment. But again, if there's some awesome support, maybe we can actually start playing Dark Magician decks. Like, that's kind of cool. They did support a Blue Eye, so I'm thinking, you know, that'd be kind of cool to have like a Dark Magician structure deck. That way we can do Dark Magician structure decks versus Blue Eye structure decks. Next up, we're getting some more support for the Harpies, which is actually really cool, because that deck was a deck that like came back because it was an old archetype, then it kind of fell off. Everyone stopped playing it basically when other things came out. But anyways, it's always treated as Harpie Lady on the field in the graveyard, but the other effects, when it's normal summon, you can target one other Wing Beast monster you control and one face-up monster your opponent controls and bounce them to the hand. That's pretty good, especially when the Divine Wind of Mist Valley, which is a card, if the card goes to 3, I think that this card would be even more insane, but during the end phase of this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can add one level 4 Wing Beast type monster with 1500 or less attack from your deck to your hand. I think that is cool because, I mean, you can just activate something that just discards it because it doesn't have to be sent from the field to the graveyard, just during the end phase of this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn. So I think that is pretty cool. I mean, that could be considered material, that could be Foolish Burial, like, that opens up a lot of doors to a lot of stuff, and it has 1700 attack, so that's kind of nice. There's actually one, you know, Harpie with decent attack that you don't have to just, basically try to boost it up. Like the other Harpie, I don't remember which one it was, but they basically boost up their attack up by like 300, I believe, but for the most part, this card's decent. Next up, there's Mandragon. I love the name of this card. Not the best, it's just one of those OCG cards that we're getting because, well, we got it. It looks like a, what's funny is, I don't know if you guys see the picture, it looks like a, I want to say guitar, but it's probably not a guitar. that's not cello, it's too small. But anyways, it looks like it's a musical instrument, and it looks like some vines or some plants are growing out of it. But I mean, I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Maybe ran out of ideas. Totally copying Pokemon. Like, Pokemon ran out of ideas a long time ago after there was a washing machine Pokemon, but nonetheless, not trying to go off topic. Anyways, we have number 14, Gree Saramia. Actually, this one was, its name changed before. But anyways, 2 level 5s, and then, when it destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the grave, you can detach 1, and then you can destroy all monsters on the field with attack equal to or less than the destroyed monster's original attack in the graveyard. I think that's pretty lackluster. Well, actually, the first effect is also decent. Your opponent takes any effect damage you have taken from their card effects, so that's kind of cool. But for the most part, I don't think this card is going to see too much play, unless there's some crazy combo with it that I just can't think of. But you basically, if it worked like you destroy the smaller monster and then pop everything that was higher than it, that would be kind of cool. Would add more utility, but I think Volcasaurus is just, it does the job better than this card. And then on top of that, you can go for Guide Charger after that. But next up, we have Dragocyous, the Impure Underworld Dragon. I think this was the upgraded version of Beals, although it's not as good because it just can't be destroyed by battle. The Beals can't be destroyed by card effects as well. Although this card has 4,000 attacks, so destroying them by battle is not going to be too common. But when it destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, it can make a second attack on another opponent's monster in a row. And then during each of your standby phases, you can target one monster your opponent controls. Its attack becomes half its current attack, and if it does, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the lost attack. I don't know how viable this is because it requires a Dark Tuner and 1 Dragon-type non-tuner monster. So I'm like, at that point, I just think Beals is an overall better card. But, you know, I mean, this basically still loses the same things that Beals loses to. And Beals is immune to being destroyed by card effects. So I think Beals is just overall better than the upgraded Beals, so that's kind of interesting. Next up, we have Isolde Belle of the Underworld. I think this card's super sexy. I hope they don't change the artwork for the TCG because I want to make some tokens with this card. If you guys haven't checked this out, I'll put a link down below in the description box. I do like making tokens out of really cool looking cards, and I think this would be an excellent token just because it's hot and I'm perverted. But the card, it has some utility. I don't know what Tristan, Knight of the Underworld is, or if that's an archetype. But I think that an Underworld archetype, because we have Torier from the Underworld, but where was the rest of them? But that's kind of cool. I don't know if it's going to be super strong. But you target up to 2 zombie-type monsters, and then you declare a level, and you can also you can only special summon zombie-type monsters. I don't know at the moment if there's any really good ones, but you know, we'll have to see it in the future if they come out with really good new zombie support. Next up, we have Junk Giant. It's kind of like a Cyber Dragon. I'll briefly read of its effect. If your opponent controls a level 5 or higher monster, you can special summon it. And a synchro summon monster using this card as material can't be negated, and your opponent can't activate anything when that monster is synchro summoned. So I thought that was really good, because I'm like, well, if you can't activate, you can't negate its summon. You know, people can still activate things like, you know, like Bottomless or something. Like, you're not negating its summon, but you can still get rid of it. But it's just your opponent can't activate card or effects when that monster is synchro summoned. I think it should be until the end of the turn that make it much better, but nonetheless, it's an okay card to help synchros, I think. Next up, we have some Blackwing support. There it is, guys. Like, I don't think it's that great, but anyways, it can't be used as synchro material except for Blackwings during the end phase of the card is in the graveyard because it was sent there. From the field turn, you can add a Blackwing monster from your deck to your hand except for the same copy of itself. I mean, I don't know how good this is. I don't know if people will actually play this because, like, I was thinking, like, you can search it out, but, like, if it could just special summon itself, it would be so much better. At that point, it would be actually good. Also, if it have to... Oh, wait, we have that. It's Gale. But I feel like just... Gale pretty much is what Blackwing's... That's, like, a perfect Blackwing card. But you need another, just, like... You control Blackwing, go ahead and special summon it. Next up, we have Child Dragon. It's level 3 Worm, which is kind of cool. So this card is synchro summoned as material. Oh, to win this card is synchro summoned as synchro material, you can use 1 monster in your hand as synchro material. I was like, well, there's probably a lot of things that we can open up Quasar with this. Also, it has 1700 attack, you know, not the best, but, you know, for level 3 monsters, that's not too bad. I don't know if it's going to be really viable for attacking with it, but nonetheless, I think it'll open up some plays to go for some crazier stuff, and I like that aspect of Yu-Gi-Oh! Next, we have number 95, Galaxy Eyes Dark Matter Dragon. I don't think that anyone's really going to be using this card, but if you want the effect, it's when it's X-Ways summoned, you can send 3 Dragon-type monsters with different names from your deck to the graveyard, and I was like, wait, hold on, if they make enough Light Sworns that were Dragon, this would be kind of cool, but it requires 3 level 9s, and at that point, like, yeah, it's not too strong, but maybe someone will think of how to use it, but anyways, you can detach 1 material from this card. This card can attack up to 2... Make up to 2 attacks on monsters. Again, it's the idea of attacking other monsters rather than just attacking twice the turn. So, I don't know how viable this card is. I think it's just going to be like a cool looking card. I mean, it does kind of look cool. and also for those number collectors. Next up, we have Mask Hero Ank, and I was like, oh no, the Mask Hero support is real. But anyways, it can only be summoned with Mask Change, and it can't be special summoned by other ways, and it can attack your opponent directly, but when it does, any battle damage is half, and when it destroys your opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can add another quick play. I was like, that opens up plays for you to attack and then go for another, quick change. So I'm thinking that you could just go ahead and mass change into this, like regardless, as long as you can attack over something. Like sure, it halves the battle damage, but it doesn't matter because you're gonna get a free card anyway. And this is obviously not gonna be in your main deck. So if you have extra room, I mean, hey, if you're playing Mass Heroes, they look like they're totally trying to gear this deck up for OTKs forever, because that's what it looks like as far as this card goes. Next up, we have Absolute King Blackjack. I think we don't really need to talk about this guy. Basically, he lets you like look through your cards. If you really want to, you can look at the card. I'm going to skip some of the cards that I don't think are just not the greatest. Next up, we have Kris, the Crack of Dawn. So if you control Blackwing, you get ahead and special summon this card. I think that this is what Blackwing's needed. And it's also 1900 attack. And then once per turn, this card can't be destroyed by spell or trap effects. I thought that was okay. You can only special summon one of them per turn, but nonetheless, that's kind of good. It gives you a normal summon. Or a special summon technically that your opponent can't really do anything with as far as spell and traps, but nonetheless, I think the Blackwing support, it's not like there to make Blackwings like another strong deck. Next up, we have Rose Lover. I thought this card was pretty interesting. You can banish it from your graveyard and special summon one Black Knight monster from your hand, and since it's level 1, I guess you can 1-for-1 it, and maybe you can extend some combos off it. But it has an additional effect that makes it pretty good, and it's unaffected by your opponent's track effects this turn. I wish it was like permanently, but that might be too OP with like Titano or something like that. But next up, we have Blackwing Tamer Hawk Joe, the Jet Black. Okay, they changed the name on this one too. I remember this card a while ago, but it's level 7, requires a Blackwing tuner, so it's not generic. But you can target one level 5 or higher Blackwing monster in your graveyard and special summon it during either player's turn. When your opponent targets exactly this card, no other cards for an attack or the card effect, you can swap it to target the other one as long as it's an appropriate target. I was like, it's not even really that great. And when I saw this card a while ago, I was like, the artwork looks cool, but it's probably not going to do anything. This card's interesting. If it was a quick play, I think this would be much better. But anyways, it's send one other spell and trap card you control to the graveyard, then target one card on the field, destroy it. I thought that was pretty good. Like I said, if it was quick play, this card would be super good, maybe even too good, because I figure like, oh, your opponent wants to target and destroy, a back row. You can be like, okay, I'm going to chain it, and I'm going to send that one to the graveyard anyways, and then get to disruptor play. Again, since it's not quick play, I don't know how viable it is, but it's not bad. Especially if you maybe want to get rid of like your vanities, and then you're able to get rid of another card. So I thought that was kind of interesting for utility. But again, if it was quick play, it'd be so much sexier. Anyways, Cat Shark. I thought this card was, like, the artwork on this, like, what the heck is this? But anyways, 2 level 2 monsters, so anything can make it, and probably frogs will be making it. So, well, it has material that was originally water, it can't be destroyed by battle. And I was like, okay, that's kind of like a gotcha that, doesn't boost, but it can't be destroyed by battle. And once per turn during either player's turn, you can detach one material, then target one rank 4 or lower XYZ monster you control, its attack and defense become double its original attack and defense. And I was like, wow, that's not too bad, but it's only until the end of this turn. And I mean, still being able to have that effect, not the worst thing to come out into the game. Kind of like I said, it's just a free defense thing. And we already have like Sacra Magician and that stuff for like those lower XYZ decks, which is kind of cool. Next up, we got more Blackwing support. We got Blackwing Nothung. I thought that was Nothing at first. I was like, wow, what a great name. So it's Nothung, the Starlight. If it's special summon, you can inflict 800 damage to your opponent, then make one monster your opponent controls lose 800 attack and defense. So basically, when it comes out, it can pretty much run over most of the stuff in the game, but you can only use this effect once per turn. And during your main phase, you can normal summon one Blackwing monster in addition to your normal summon, and you can only get this effect once per turn. And this card is generic, so I thought that was kind of cool. That anything can make this, because we don't have any really good level 6 synchros in the game, and I think this one could definitely be it. Vulcan is okay for certain decks, but this card definitely great. Just basically gets over stuff, and we already have Goyle Guardian legal, but being able to inflict 800 damage to your opponent is random, but there are times where that can make the difference between winning and losing games, as Gaga Cowboy has shown myself multiple times. So I think this is like a legit card. It's not totally for Blackwings, but it's a very good card, just a good generic card. Next up we have another one of those Sephram Pendulum cards where you can only summon the Ritual Beast or Seraph monsters through Pendulums. And then when this card is normal or Pendulum summon, you can target one Ritual Beast or Sephram monster in your graveyard and special summon it but destroy it during the end phase. That effect is irrelevant in the Spirit Beast deck that I've been playing. But you don't really need this card because it doesn't really like do anything that's different for the deck. Because basically most of the tamers anyways, they special summon one from the graveyard or from the banish zone anyways. I feel like this card is completely irrelevant. But you know, this could all change depending on, like, they want every deck to go for Pendulum summoning, it seems like. I mean, we got the Shaddoll, we got the Satellar Knight. Now, what's up next? Like the Burning Abyss, you know. Well, I mean, that's kind of exclusive, but, you know, in the future, once it comes out for the OCG, maybe they'll go ahead and actually start doing that. But it seems like they want us to really go for Pendulum summons. But, I mean, I don't think I am, but let me know if you guys are going to try to with all this new support. Next up, we have Tristan, Knight of the Underworld, so that Underworld's, like, archetype. But, anyways, when it's normal summon, you can target one zombie-type monster with 0 defense in your graveyard and add it to your hand. And then while you control another zombie-type monster, it gains 300 attack. I really wish this card got its effect on a special summon so I can go like Zombie Master and then special summon this, then search out a card. I thought that would have been much better, but nonetheless, it's an okay card. Like I said, maybe zombies will be pretty good. There is a loop that I need to show you guys with Lavalval Chain with some of the newer zombie stuff, which, like I said, I'll show you guys shortly. But anyways, Rose Paladin, looks like they're still trying to support that. I don't know if you guys saw the, there's a plant type, it's like a princess plant type. And it's all about just getting out a high level like plant monsters that are like plant princesses. But anyways, this is Rose Paladin. When it destroys an opponent's monster balance in this graveyard, you contribute this card to special one plant monster from your hand or deck in defense position, which is pretty awesome. And then you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard to add one 7 or higher from your deck to your hand. So I was like, wow, that's pretty good if you're using a combination with that other Rose card which we talked about. Which once you banish it, it lets you summon a plant monster and it's unaffected by traps until the end of the turn. Next up, Door Dragon. We don't need to talk about this. Just another Pendulum. There's just a vanilla. It does not have an effect, just has some flavor text. Next up, we have Prepared Explosion, which is, or Prepared Explosives, actually. They changed the name of this one. Anyways, it's inflict 300 damage to your opponent for each card they control. If this card on the field is destroyed by your opponent's card and sent to the graveyard, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. So, I guess someone might figure out some more burn cards. There's a few cards in here that I really want to make videos talking about. We already talked about Ultimate Soken, so if you want to check that out, I'll put that link down below in the description box. But this can open up a lot of crazy plays. Just once per turn, Synchro, you get to bring a Synchro monster from your extra deck that is 7 or 8, which is an insane effect. Especially if you can keep this card alive with like a Stardust Spark Dragon or something like this. This card opens up a lot of crazy plays in the game. But like I said, did a full video on this card alone because I think it's definitely worth talking about. Next up, we have Ring of Peace, which is a crazy card. To activate this card, you must draw for your normal draw in your draw phase while your opponent controls 3 or more monsters and you control no cards. Reveal it and keep it revealed until the start of main phase 1. At the start of your main phase 1, that same turn, you can add 1 card from your deck to your hand. I was like, wow. So your opponent goes ahead and swarms really hard and you control no cards. That's pretty awesome. The only thing that sucks with these cards, like it's a rank up magic. This is the 7th one. I know there's a rank up card where if you draw it during your draw phase, there's crazier cards. The thing with some of these cards, though, is like it opens up a lot of sack potential for the game, which opens up too much RNG, meaning that there's random number generators. Sometimes if you happen to open up with it, a card is obviously going to do nothing. But if you happen to draw it, it just opens up like really crazy plays. So I don't know if I like some of these cards, but I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on like the cards, like the rank up card as well as just drawing these cards where like you can just have some crazy condition. Next up, we have this trap card. I thought that was pretty cool. Stardust Re-Spark. So when an opponent's special summon monster declares a direct attack, if its attack is greater than or equal to your life points. So basically, if you're going to die from that, you get to negate the attack. And if you draw 1 card, then you get to special summon a Stardust monster from your extra deck or graveyard. You can only actually 1 per turn. But that's crazy. That's like straight up something from the anime. I think this card has a lot of potential. I mean, could you imagine? And you don't even have to have like no back row or something. I was thinking like maybe you can only control this card. But that's pretty cool because then I could just do like assault mode. So I was thinking that would be pretty cool to try to make a deck revolving around getting your life points really low, like wall revealing light, then your opponent like MSTs or whatever. Then they try to go attack for game, and then you activate it. Now, the only problem with that is that you might just get Gaga Cowboyed for game, but I thought that was a cool idea. I definitely will be messing around with some Stardust Re-Spark. I think the card is very cool. Next up, we have Clearwing Synchro Dragon. So it's a generic level 7 Synchro monster. And I think this card is really crazy here. Like, I cannot wait to Mathematician to Felice and just make this all day. Once per turn during either player's turn, when another level 5 or higher monster on the field activates its effect, you can negate the activation and destroy it. And then, because that wasn't enough, right? Once per turn during either player's turn, when a monster effect is activated that targets exactly one level 5 or higher monster on the field, and no other cards, you can negate the activation if you destroy it. If this card destroys a monster by its own effect, it gains attack equal to destroys monster original attack until the end of the turn. Wow, that is amazing. Probably one of the best level 7 synchros in the game if you're trying to like stun your opponent and you know your opponent has to make you know, high level stuff. This is definitely going to be one of my favorite cards to go for. And like you can, it's a dragon, that's a debris dragon. Like I'm stoked for this card. Like I said, it's generic, so it doesn't like require anything. That's like too good for the game. Next up we have Hellfire, Boatwatcher, Ghost, Charon. I feel like this card opens up some game-breaking potential as well. Its effect is, it's also a tuner. If your opponent controls a monster, you control no other monsters, so it's basically like you go second or whatever. You can target one fusion monster in graveyard, banish both that target and this card. If you do special summon one dragon type synchro monster from your extra deck whose level equals the total levels of the banished monsters. And I was like, well, you can just throw in whatever you want for your fusion deck because that's whatever you want. And then you can't special summon during the turn you activate this, except for dragon type monsters. You can only activate his effect once per turn. So I was like, wow, that's like a one card synchro. There's a lot of crazy stuff for some synchro support coming out right now in the game. And next up we have Pero Cerberus, which is kind of like an interesting take on Necrogarden. So maybe Lightsworn players will be running this. Anyways, it's got 1800 defense, 0 attack, and if you take damage from attack or an opponent's card effect while this card is in graveyard, you can banish this card, then target one card on the field, destroy it. And I was like, wow. So that means like if I play Lightsworn, I can just like mill this card and just be like, oh, you attack and I take damage? Okay, go ahead and pop the back row, and then I'm going to make my Judgment Dragon next turn. I love this card. I think I'll definitely be interested in playing this. Because sometimes with Lightsworn, you can't really rely on those back row destruction cards, because then you don't have, you end up milling them, and then like someone throws up Vanity's Emptiness, and you don't have the Lila, and like this card's in the graveyard, and it's just, it's going to be awesome to have this card for Lightsworn, or just any deck that likes to just dump cards to the graveyard. So I thought this card was pretty cool. Next up we have Present Exchange, and I felt like, wow, there's some huge potential for some troll decks with this card, maybe some exchange or something like that. But anyways, it's a spell card that says each player banishes one card from their deck face down. But during the end phase of this turn, each player adds the card banished by their opponent to their hand. So I was like, well, if you give your opponent a card they can't use, you could just exchange, and then like you could make use of that. So I thought that was cool, and also the artwork is really cool for this. It's a kid. It looks like they're celebrating, like basically, like it looks like Christmas, basically. But this kid opens up and he got a shirt, and the shirt has a picture of a Scrap Kong, and it looks like he's pretty upset about this. I feel like we can make a video just on Present Exchange, but you know, I want to figure out some crazier combos with some of the cards we mentioned. So if you have any ideas, or if you felt like I missed out on some of the cooler combos, let me know in the comment section below. But I feel like Present Exchange, it has some crazy potential. I wish it wasn't face down, but the thing is, like, you pick anything from your deck and give it to your opponent. And I'm wondering, like, I remember there was a card called like Parasite something, where your opponent, like, once they draw it, like something happens. I forgot exactly what it did, and I forgot the exact condition. But I remember there's a card where, like, you shuffle it into like your opponent's deck, and then when they draw it, something happens. I want to see if there's any cards that work with like Present Exchange, if like your opponent happens to have this card in your hand and it's actually your card, like some crazy effect happens. Because there's so many cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! That are old that we just totally forget about. I really feel like Present Exchange can open up a lot of combos, and so I want to end off the video with basically, like I said, let me know, guys, any combos, but more importantly, Present Exchange. How do we make this card broken? Because I think it has a lot of potential. But that's it for the update, guys. Sorry for the 500-hour video, but at least now you know what is available, as well as what you can, maybe use the cards with from some of the comments. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day. Azneyes out.